Hello and welcome to Performance Check. My name is Rob, and I'm going to be concluding the My 30-Day World challenge exercise thing that was created by Absolute Tabletop in conjunction with their Kickstarter, their successfully backed Kickstarter, Dead Man's Guide to Dragongrin, which you still have a couple of days to back over at Kickstarter. Obviously, I put a link this in the description thing. So if you've been watching these, this is the last time I'm going to be linking it down there. So take the opportunity, go over and see what they're doing there. The guys do some really fantastic work, and I'm really looking forward to seeing the completed product. You have to forgive me. I've had a very long day. A very long day with not very much sleep. Last night was the latest session of Jade Horde, run by Lloyd over on the LDM with Matt Click and Jeff Doty and Jeremy Lilly playing alongside me. And you know what? It's worth it. It's worth being tired the next day to play in that game. So without further ado, I'm going to just jump into the questions. Now, I kind of wanted to just blitz these, okay? I wanted to kind of just go straight through them, mainly because I was running out of time to actually just film these and edit them, like I've done with basically all of the other My 30-Day World videos I've done, I've edited. But I thought I just want to belt all of these out, you know what I mean? So then it's completed. I am going to go through all of the remaining ones. I know we haven't quite finished it yet, but I just want it to be there. Because I know I'm going to be really busy over the next couple of days. So this is my opportunity to do it, even though I'm incredibly tired. So on very little sleep and with basically zero preparation, let's begin. So this is the next one, 16. I won't be giving them numbers because I've been doing it a weird way. I haven't been doing it by date. I've been doing it by the number of questions, which isn't on the it isn't on the thing that they present, so it doesn't matter. I'm just going to turn my phone off so I don't get literally every time like you watch a stream with me these days, I will have people try and instantly talk to me. Anyway, so the next question is, are constructs common in your world? What is their role? I'm really glad you asked, Absolute Tabletop, because no one's ever asked me about constructs with my setting. In fact, there's a lot of questions that people haven't asked, but that's one that I've never had before. Despite the fact there being a strong element of lore based around constructs in my setting, and it is in its history. Like a lot of the stuff that I have included in these questions have been sort of like backstory to my world. Like a lot of the stuff used to exist and now it doesn't. Hence why it's like the setting for the lore keepers, because it's all about like evoking the past, you know. But in terms of constructs, if we're not talking about like animated constructs like golems and things like that, I'm talking like constructs that have been no, actually, that's a bad way of putting it. See, this is what happens when you don't prepare. Let me tell you about a certain type of construct, though. When the God King, and if you've been watching the rest of these videos, you'll know this. If not, check them out and then come back here. When the God King was sweeping across the realms with his army of unification, hoping to unite and forge the Nine Kingdoms, essentially, he had a massive amount of forces, and it's kind of a bit of a mystery how, like, and where these forces came from. Like the God King himself, he kind of just appeared out of nowhere. Just appeared one day and started taking over, and it's a mystery that's never been fully explained. However, one element of that mystery, which is particularly strange, is that within the Army of Unification there was a collective known as the Iron Legion, and the Iron Legion were iron constructs that essentially were used to fight the war. At least help fight the war, both on the front lines and in terms of support as well. Like these were essentially like they were shield guardians and the like. They were powerful metal constructs that would fight without tiring until the battle is won. But the thing is, there is rumored to have been a point where the God King's forces could have been undermined by those that were opposing him, the forces that allegedly began the reign of chaos. There was a turning point where there could have been a chance that the God King had been repelled, and then all of a sudden, a mysterious stranger appeared to the generals of the God King's army and pledged that if they were to pay him a ridiculous amount of gold, and if they were to gift onto him a legendary artifact, this individual would grant them the forces required to take a certain part of the Nine Kingdoms, the frontier to be precise, which is the very northern kingdom that borders the sublime, the icy tundra to the north. And the generals within the God King's army decided to agree to this, because they didn't want to be the ones that turned around and said, yeah, we screwed up on our end. So they agreed to this, and they gave him this artifact, which I might go into a bit later, because it's a very, very particular artifact that is important in my world. But then the stranger disappeared, and the Iron Legion emerged, these constructs, like a full-on battalion of constructs that were there ready to pick up the slack in terms of the northern elements of the battle that was going on at that time. And because of that, the north fell, thanks to the help of the Iron Legion. But then as soon as their job was done, they vanished. They disappeared without a trace, very much like the stranger who arrived, who pledged this deal. And the Iron Legion have never been seen ever again. There, every now and then, you'll come across like a piece of scrap where one of them was rarely defeated. You'll find like the animated or now unanimated helm of one, or like an arm or something. So those are, I suppose, the constructs that I've given the most thought to in my world, and I like the name the Iron Legion because it's what it says on the tin, really. So that's constructs in the Nine Kingdoms. That wasn't bad for off the cuff. What rare and interesting races populate a world? So my world is kind of in the decline of rare and interesting races. There was once the OLantern, there were once the Dragonborn, there were once the let me think. Let's talk about the OLantern. I haven't really gone into the OLantern an awful lot, but the OLantern definitely existed in my world. The OLantern actually were one of the elder races, the primogen races, as it were, the ones that essentially had a civilization, a thriving civilization before the God King arrived. Within the realms that is now known as the Five Kingdoms, the Nine Kingdoms. Can't count today, no sleep. And the OLantern were very much the beacons of civilization, and art, and sophistication. There were there were fabled swordsmen, like the OLantern sword saints were a particularly famous collection of OLantern that were basically the greatest swords masters of known history, essentially. The last one of them falling in the Battle of Siona, where the witch hunters took it to finally defeat the Moon Elves in the Radiant March that took place there. But the OLantern decided that they were, instead of sticking around and fighting for this world, they decided that they'd had enough. And instead of leading one last assault, or at least helping with one last assault, the OLantern looked to the Gates of Gar-El, this strange rift between different worlds, and decided, rather than stick around, to leave for another one, to go to another world. And the OLantern opted to do this. There was the exodus of the OLantern, and they collected and they left. I like the OLantern as an idea. I like the fact that essentially they're just super elves, even though elves are pretty super in their own right. But the OLantern are pretty damn badass, and I've always liked them since for a long time. and I wanted to include them. And I like the idea of some of the more obscure races being sort of like these hallowed kind of figures within the pantheon of my world's history. So that's the OLantern. I'm just trying to think if there are any other interesting races. I mean, we've got 2 Dragonborn left. There's 2 of them, as far as we know, at least. There's Taxes, who is a player character in the Lawkeepers campaign, and there is Weaver, who is an NPC within that same campaign also. So the Dragonborn are there, and they're incredibly rare. The Tieflings are also incredibly rare. Because they don't come from the world that the material plane. They are from somewhere else. And there's a whole thing about the tieflings, but I think I've already answered that question with the OLantern, so I'm going to move on. I just realized I've been on that for a while. I'm just going to check the stream to see if it's still going. I didn't know if it was still going. I could have been just talking for ages without actually anyone being there, which would have been frustrating, or rather it not recording. That's my main fear, because I was doing a stream once and it just stopped, and I don't know why. So ever since then, it's made me a little bit paranoid. So anyway, moving on with the questions. I'm going to try and belt through a few more of these because I talked quite a lot about those 2. What relics of the past shape the present? So I'd say a relic that is currently shaping the present is the Grimoire, Grim, a sentient book in which the Lawkeeper legends are contained and recorded. The Grimoires essentially were basically awakened by the fact that the telling is a force of obscurity. It's a strange one, and there's sort of a recurring theme with the telling that often it brings life. It brought life to spoiler alert for Lawkeepers. It brought life to Equinox, who is the central antagonist of my current campaign. But the items that record the actions that echo within the telling are also awakened and alive. And the Grimoires are very much the embodiment of that, or rather the epitome of that, not the embodiment of that. They don't have bodies, they're books. But there is only one left. There is only one, and that is the Grimoire that is in the possession of the player characters. So it is very much like a critical artifact that this is the last Grimoire. And it is a vital artifact in the game, in the sense that it is something that Equinox has been after for some time. In fact, the very beginning of the campaign showed Equinox trying to lay his hands upon and take the Grimoire, but the players got away and delivered it to Weaver. But the Grimoires I find really interesting, and I've done like a little bit of writing about them and stuff, and I suddenly decided that while most Grimoires take the appearance of books, like every now and then you'll get a Lawkeeper from the past that decided to carve essentially what would be in a book onto something else. So there was Damodran, the Lord's Blade, who was a Lawkeeper from the past, who instead began carving his legends upon his sword, and the sword became sentient. And the sword's name I've completely forgotten, because again I didn't prepare for this. It has a really badass name as well. I was really pleased with it. I'm gonna look it up. Why not? Why the hell not? Let's see. I'll bring up a new tab. I really like the name, and that's really going to bug me if I don't know what the name is. Let's see. Performance check, because I know I posted it on my own Facebook page, which you can go and like, by the way. And a little plug there. You can go and like Performance Check over on Facebook. You'll see me posting things there every now and then. Oh, but of course there isn't a search function for some reason on my Facebook page. That's really annoying. Okay, I can search one last place, and if I can't find it, I'm just going to carry on because I don't want to waste time on the stream. Search this group, Damodran. Here we are, Damodran, the Lord's Blade. let me tell you about Damodram, because you were patient and waited for me to bring it up. So Damodram was one of the few surviving generals of the Reign of Chaos. Damodran the Lord's Blade in his prime was one of the mightiest warriors in the Nine Kingdoms. Having embraced the telling, he harnessed its power so he could make war on the forces of the God King. Those that witnessed his multiple forms of swordplay would all attest that fighting Damodran was like sparring with a mirror. Precognitive and unbreakable guard partnered with attacks that could assault both mind and body. His drive for revenge against those that slaughtered his men and his friends was the beginning of his downfall and paved the way for the rise of Equinox. Damodran was one of the few lawkeepers to transfigure his grimoire into the carvings of his mighty sword, Meta Edge. A name worth waiting for, if you don't mind me saying. A blade that still remains lost in the darkness, still whispering the tales of his master's great deeds. Great and fell deeds, rather. There we go. Artifacts that shape the present, the grimoires, and I'm particularly pleased with the grimoires. I really like them, and I have a lot of fun thinking up for new stuff for them. So let's move on to the next question. And if you have any, I don't know if I have anyone watching, but if you do, if anyone is watching, I know it's a little early, and most of my audience are US based, so. But like I say, no sleep. I'm not going to be doing this later. Pardon me. So let's see. Let's bring up the next question. Relics that, but yes, I've done that one. How are taxes and tributes collected in your world? So by the usual means, the tribunal are essentially the iron fist of the God King's reign, and the Seneschal Society. They are very much like the militia and the police, that kind of thing. Like they are the ones that. Well, they're the army, basically. It's a constant state of martial law, so that's what the tribunal are. They're there to enact judgment on all that live in the Seneschal Society. And it is usually them that are the ones that would be, or rather, a certain division of the police would be there to collect taxes and the like. I do have one of the Nine Kingdoms known as the Penny Kingdoms, which is a particular favorite of mine because the taxes there are particularly brutal because there's an awful lot of money that changes hands between three powerful families ruled by counts. The really funny thing about the Penny Kingdoms is that you can go to sleep in one of the regions of the Penny Kingdoms, and you can wake up the next morning, and the land that you are on could now be owned by a different count the next morning. You know what I mean? Like, it can change that quickly. It's a very cutthroat place to live. Is also where halflings and gnomes reside within my setting, because I thought, you know what, I will have them in there, but where they're going to be is just going to be a really horrible and difficult place to live, because I'm not a fan of them, to be honest. I'm not such a fan of the halflings and the gnomes, but you know, maybe one day a player will change my mind, but I've not met one yet. So that's like a funny thing about taxes, like essentially they're particularly brutal in the Penny Kingdoms, for which they are now called Penny Kingdoms, because you know you can buy a kingdom for a penny. That was like the phrase back in the day. Are there evil races in your realm, such as Drow? So as I've explained in a previous video, the Drow in my world are not evil whatsoever. The Drow basically took it upon themselves, and they chose to go into the Underdark rather than be banished into the Underdark like they are often depicted in many other settings. So the Drow aren't evil. Let me think. I don't think there are actually evil races, like as a race they're evil. I don't think so. I think that there are monsters that are all evil in my realm, but I don't think there are evil races. So that's quite an easy one, because I like the idea of people having shades of good and shades of evil. I like the idea of exploring what does it take to become a hero in the Lawkeepers campaign, and I suppose I'd have to put the flip side on that. What does it take to be evil in my world as well? That's something that I would like to see develop, rather than just say this race of whatever, I don't know, this race of particular race of dwarves, they're evil. They're all evil. Okay, that's not the way that I really think about it. And that's not the way I think about character either. And that I suppose is what I put the emphasis on. Like, people are going to be playing these races, then yeah, I don't want to collectively group them in as evil. The next question is, are there many underground locations beneath your world? As mentioned within another version of this, another 30-day world video, I spoke at length about the Underdark Wars. The Underdark within my world is basically entirely beneath the rest of the surface. The Underdark, if you were to map it, would probably be almost, if not slightly larger than the kingdom on the surface, because it obviously has more room to go when you're going down. So the Underdark is absolutely colossal. So there are beneath the surface is a huge underground location. What prominent fantastical bodies of water are there? So to the north, I always have to do never eat shredded wheat to work out northeast, south, and west. To the east of the Nine Kingdoms, there is an isle, which is one of the kingdoms known as Scepter. And Scepter is the home to the Observants, which is the collective of civilized faith. They are in charge of basically the doctrine of the God King's religion. That's basically their thing. They are the clerics. They are the clerics that are basically like on the payroll of the Seneschal Society. Scepter is the richest kingdom by far, even though it's the smallest. It has the most powerful navy, and that navy basically does its duty by basically patrolling all of the waters surrounding the Nine Kingdoms, which is a huge place. So the fact that it has a huge navy obviously helps. Now, to the very east, if you were to keep going east from Scepter, there is a huge sort of wall of churning mists and waves, and it is known as the Surge. And if you were to attempt to go into the Surge, you would not return, for no one ever has. The Surge is spoken about in hushed whispers by pirates and by merchants alike. It is a terrifying concept that if you were to basically sail east, you will disappear, you will be gone. But there is rumor of another land beyond the Surge, one that is hidden and eclipsed by the mists and the waves. And it's incredibly dangerous. But the Surge has many different stories about it. Some say that it's like a colossal sea beast that is continually writhing in a prison of torment just beneath the waves, and will one day break free and bring doom to the entirety of the world. And some people just say that it is some kind of magical storm, like manifesting in some kind of kinetic kind of way. Hydrokinetic, is that? I don't even know. So that's a fantastical body of water. There's also a mirror lake within far wide. Mirror Lake is where in the middle of it is the Methanium. I don't think I've ever actually named the lake like on a stream at all, but that's what it's called, Mirror Lake. Pilgrims would go to Mirror Lake both before and after Methanium was built to look into the surface to discover something about themselves. And if you were to look into it, you would. And it's something I've never brought up, but it's just like a little detail that is just there. Obviously, you don't mention all these things when you're running a game. That's the thing. Like, I've written that and I've known that for a long time, but it's just never come up in a game. So yeah, Mirror Lake is also another fantastical body of water. But then, people just say that it might be superstition, that like really there's nothing that comes of it. And really it's down to you to do the soul searching. Let me see. What's valuable in your world? Gold, something else? Gold is definitely valuable. The one thing that I would change if I could go back to Lore Keepers at the very beginning would be to make, I don't know, like there isn't really much emphasis on buying things in the campaign, and I'm kind of like a little bit, no, I'm not saying that is the case, but I would like to maybe go back and do the currency, work out the currency a bit better. Because like the few transactions that have occurred in the very early sessions, that's the only time it's ever happened, has been like, oh, I sling you a gold piece, like it's just gold, like which obviously is not the sign of a prosperous economy, or perhaps it is, and it's too prosperous. Hyperinflation, carrying money around in wheelbarrows to buy one loaf of bread. I'll tell you what it could be. It could be that Farwide has a different currency system to the rest of the Nine Kingdoms. Yeah, there we go. Oh, see, this is good. This is helpful. I'm working things out. Farwide has a different currency system from the rest of the Nine Kingdoms because it's the only realm that hasn't fallen to the God King. So I'll have to invent a God King currency. Oh, that'll be fun. Maybe I'll do that at the end. That's good. I will do that. Maybe I won't because this is going to take quite a while, but I will do it at some point soon. So yeah, definitely gold is valuable. Artifacts as well, legendary artifacts and things like that. Information is something that I think is incredibly important in my world as well. The Court of Whispers solely operates on the exchange of information and then using that to eliminate their foes with assassins and spies. And information can be sold to the right people if you want to snitch on someone. If you want the Seneschal Society to stamp someone out, then absolutely information is very valuable within my world. I'm just trying to think if there's anything else. I think that's all right. And to be honest, I'm not going to drag that out too much, to be fair. I'm going to have a puff. I'm going to have a drink of tea because I'm just like talking constantly, and then we will continue. Let's see. Okay. What is the tech level? Doesn't magic integrate? There is a level of Magitek within my world. However, it is incredibly rare. It is a new thing, and it's something that only the richest and the most successful are able to access. The only evidence of this in the campaign that I'm running at the moment is Flick the Doppelganger Assassin has Magitek grenades, which essentially she throws and it like explodes with kind of like blue energy, like and it's basically a fireball. Which makes her incredibly dangerous, like throwing fireballs around and stuff. And there are basically, I haven't thought of an actual name for them, but essentially they're going to be like arcane technical experts that essentially infuse. Oh, what? No, I did have a name for them. What did I call them? I did have a name for them. See, this is what happens when you don't prepare. This is what we're learning, kids. And I don't have anywhere to look this up because I don't know where it would be. Oh, what is it called? I can't remember. But essentially, these people basically infuse certain devices with magical power within the magisterium, and they obviously go for a lot of money and are used by only the most highly paid and professional operatives within the Seneschal Society. Maybe I'll do a one shot one day where there's like a Magitek kind of like compound or factory that could be raided, and there'd be all these kind of strange mechanical magical items that you can acquire. That'd be pretty cool. So yeah, there is like a level of Magitek there, but it isn't common at all. And where it does appear, it is incredibly dangerous because it's putting magic in the hands of anyone, which we all know doesn't usually go well. What is the most misunderstood playable race? Misunderstood. I would go with a half orc because I would say first of all the Dragonborn, but the Dragonborn are very, very well understood by the Seneschal Society and all that live within my realm because they simply know that they're dangerous, they know they're a threat, and they want them out of the way. They're a magical creature. I would say the half orcs are more misunderstood because essentially the half orcs, they weren't really common before, like the Seneschal Society. Half orcs, like it were very, very rare occasions that they would appear. Unfortunately, the half orcs in my setting are predominantly around because of a breeding program. made by the tribunal, the law enforcement of the Seneschal Society, in which the God King would want warriors with the strength and ferocity of the orc, but the sound tactics and calculated thinking of a human being mixed into one warrior. So thus the half-orc was created. And I think they would be misunderstood because they're seen as a slave race and they're seen as like an abomination that's simply there for killing. Whereas we're now seeing in different parts of the Nine Kingdoms, from in home games that I've run, that the half-orcs are, there's much more to them than that. They have an entire culture now that they've sort of developed, where a number of these half-orc tribes have now splintered off and rebelled against the tribunal itself. The most prominent being the Broken Chain, led by Lashback, who I've talked about a number of times on my YouTube channel as a cool antagonist that I threw against a home group of mine. So I would say that they're very misunderstood, but because of the way that they've been treated, they are also now, a number of them are incredibly militant and seek revenge at all costs. So that's the half-orc. Let's see. What deities dwell in your realm? Are they involved? No deities dwell in my realm other than the God King, of course. And the God King, I would say, is involved. Do any people of your world revere nature? How deeply? Absolutely, they do. The Moon Elves, I would say, are the ones that I would jump to them straight away. They're very druidic and nomadic in their way, since they have been purged and sort of driven into sort of like constant exile by the Magisterium and the Witch Hunters. They have a reverence for nature, rivaled by anyone else. They live their lives by the cycle of the moons. The 3 moons that wheel in the sky above the Nine Kingdoms. There are 3 moons, and they have a particular kinship for a particular type of animal that I'm not going to go into at this point. But they're pretty cool, and they have a definite reverence for nature. But then again, there are always different types of characters that would like nature, like rangers and things like that, like Carl Kilgannon, a character from Lawkeepers, was a fighter, but like he spent most of his time in the wilderness, outdoors. Like he wasn't a ranger, but like this is where he lived his life. He just rambled and moved about and had a reverence for nature in that respect. So I think it would be like, aside from like cultures devoted around nature, I would say that there's lots of people that appreciate the nature in the world, the sweeping wilderness of the Nine Kingdoms. Let me see. What character would you play in your own world? Oh, that's a good question. There are 2. One I won't mention, but the other I will. There is a pardon me. Gonna drink. Pardon me. Choking live on air. There is a character known as Fade, who I have played as before, and I really, really enjoyed this character. I put a lot of time and effort into developing the character, and I decided that it's one of those rare occasions where I was like, you know what? I like that character so much that I'm actually going to take that character from a separate game that he's been in and put him in this one, which does have certain dramatic connotations in terms of what that means for my setting. But I'm like, you know what? I don't care. Essentially, Fade was a very, very powerful assassin. And you know what? Because I did not foresee this question coming up, I'm actually going to bring up a little thing about it because Fade has a lot to do with the Court of Whispers, which is cool because I've not really gone into much about the background of the Court of Whispers, but I will do so now because why not? Why the hell not? And I was also going to say, it's not like many people watch the My 30-Day World videos, and I'm not just talking about myself, I'm talking about everyone, but I've already said my piece on that. But let me just bring that up. So I'm opening up the Nine Kingdoms master document, which will hopefully present me with information that I need. No, I brought up the wrong one. I have like three. There's like a spoiler one and a spoiler-free one, which is helpful because when people are like, oh, I want to know this information, but I don't want to give away certain elements of the history that I want to bring out in the Lawkeepers campaign, because that's kind of like a lot of what the campaign is based on, discovering more about the world and the history of it, because the history has been stamped out. Yeah, that's a whole thing. But anyway, I'm desperately trying to find this document. I should really know where my setting document is. That's really bad. That's really bad. Come on. Oh my god. Is it now that I discover that I no longer know where my... Oh my goodness me. Please come back, the Nine Kingdoms. That's slightly terrifying. Have I lost my setting live on a stream? That would be funny, wouldn't it? No, here it is. Jeez. Whew. I was like, oh my god, I will actually have a recorded reaction of me seeing all of that work disappearing. And I'd be like, Google Docs. So I'm bringing up the Court of Whispers. Here we go. So essentially, the history of the Court of Whispers is pretty rad. And I say pretty rad, like, I shouldn't say that about my own stuff. Maybe I should. I don't know. I don't want to be like I don't want to blow my own trumpet. I'm going to read it. I'm going to straight up read it. The Court of Whispers is a spy syndicate that operates throughout the Nine Kingdoms and acts as the eyes, ears, and daggers of the Seneschal Society. Their thieves leave no trace. Their assassins leave no life. They are a symphony of shadow and secrets that strikes fear into the hearts of any they deem to be a target. In the early days of unification throughout the land, two leading espionage networks, the Symphony and the Black Veil, were contracted to build the greatest web of operatives the world has ever known to serve the God King. Little is known about the shadowy organization that was founded, but it is safe to assume that the most dangerous agents in the known world were successful in their plight. All that serve within the Court of Whispers understand that information is power, and they remain confident in the knowledge that no secret can hide from them. Fade's code, and this is where Fade comes in. The court strangely operates within a code of respect of those that they serve and work with. This can be interpreted as a kind of honor amongst thieves or simple professionalism, but the reason for the code is very clear. Towards the end of the Third Era, the Symphony, one of those original leading espionage networks that helped found the Court of Whispers, the Symphony was destroyed by one of their very own rogue assassins. The Symphony operated in the belief that life is music with as many rises and falls, yet all music must end, all music must fade. The masked man that ended their song was only known as Fade. Learning from the mistakes of the past, the court took all-encompassing measures to ensure loyalty amongst their ranks. Any promise given must be fulfilled, any oath taken must be fulfilled, and all contracts taken are to be completed without question or face unspeakable consequences. This is Fade's code. That probably needs a rewrite. But essentially, that's the character I would play. I would love to play Fade, the assassin that single-handedly took down like an entire assassin network. He went rogue and basically took it down. He was badass. Like he had like a and this was before Kylo Ren, so I was kind of a little bit inspired by Revan, but like Fade wore the mask like with a slit across there before like everyone knew who Revan was. So before it was cool. It had like a mask like that, and it had like he had the he had like an assassin's blade and like he was just really badass. Anyway, I took ages answering that question. So there's some stuff about the core whispers. I hope you like that. And how they were created by actually two differing assassin and espionage networks. So back to the questions. I think I'm doing all right. What is a legendary relic of power in your world? Oh, I thought I got away with that and talked about the Grimoire. There is a relic of power that has been discovered within the last session of the Lawkeepers. It is a sphere. I'm not going to actually name it, but it is a sphere that allegedly gives glimpses into the future. And it's just sat there in Spellstead, the compound of the Rogue Arcane. It can give you glimpses of the future. That's all I'm going to tell you, because that is pretty badass. And the final question of my 30-day world. I'm going to have a drink, going to have a puff, going to save this because this is me finishing it. It seems like I've been doing this a while. A month, you might say. Not quite. But anyway. Are the lands cartographed? Where are the boundaries? It is cartographed. The Nine Kingdoms is fairly well known. There is a lot of mystery, sort of like within the realms itself, but the actual borders of the realms are very, very well established in the sense that everyone knows where everything is. To tell you the truth, like I have attempted to draw the Nine Kingdoms map a number of times, and I got very close to sort of finalizing the look of it, and then I kind of took a look at it and I was like, hang on a second, Rob, you've just spent like the last couple of days watching Game of Thrones, and that map looks a little bit like Westeros, which also is known as the Seven Kingdoms. So the similarity has to end there, and it can't look like the Seven Kingdoms. So I've had to go back to the drawing board, literally, for drawing the map of the Nine Kingdoms. And it's weird because like usually when I draw a campaign map, like I do it of the realm, I don't do it of the entire world. I've never drawn an entire world map. I did draw a number of different regions when I was running my last D&D setting called Mayron, in which Fade was a part of. Yeah, like it's difficult. It's really difficult to sort of like finalize it because I'm really picky and I want to make sure that everything is going to be in place and where it needs to be without me having to retcon it, because I don't want to have to draw another map. But in terms of the world itself, it is well cartographed. It is, generally speaking, the world is known. It's just that there are many mysteries within those borders that make it an incredibly dangerous place to travel in. And an exciting place in which to go on adventures, resist tyranny, discover legends, and play D&D. So there we have it. That is the conclusion to my 30-day world. I've got to say, like, it's been a really good exercise doing this, and I absolutely 100% applaud the gang over at Absolute Tabletop for making this thing happen, because it's made me think an awful lot. Like, I now know, for instance, from this stream that I'm going to come up with a new currency system for the God King's Central Society, along with a few other things that I won't go into right now because I've talked enough. But this has been really cool, and I would urge anyone to just go through these questions, even if you haven't done the 30-day world challenge. Give the questions a look and just like start putting it down, because like it really helps you sort of work out what you could be putting on world and what you could be leaving out of your world, and yeah. So I have one question in the chat from Cockma. Hey, hello. And they say, how about the Moon Elves versus the Witch Hunters? Let me see. What was that in relation to? I can't think of what that is in relation to, but the Witch Hunters and the Moon Elves obviously were in conflict for a long time. The Battle of Siona and the Radiant March, the war that the Witch Hunters went on against the Moon Elves. The Radiant March is essentially like a Witch Hunter crusade, and a number have happened over the years, and one of them sadly was targeted at the Moon Elves. So yeah, I don't really know what you mean, like, or how about that, but that is definitely what happened. The Moon Elves and the Witch Hunters did clash, and sadly, the Moon Elves did not come out of it in the best condition. Anyway, I have rambled endlessly, so I'm now going to put myself to the sword and end this once and for all. But thank you ever so much for watching, if you've made it all the way through. If you've watched all of my 30-day world videos, please say in the comments so I can actually thank you, because the other thing I was going to say that I haven't mentioned before is that while a lot of people in the community that I operate in have been contributing to my 30-day world, I've noticed that there's been less and less interaction with people sort of, engaging with other people's content. And I've tried to not be a hypocrite. I've tried to address certain things and talk to people about their worlds and stuff. But if you have watched all my stuff about this, thank you very much. Because at least then, the effort has, like, people have seen what I've talked about. Like, maybe you've liked it, maybe you don't like it, but at the end of the day, like, it's just it's all adding to the well of creativity and good vibes in the community we work with, I suppose. God, I'm tired. I'm talking crap. Anyway, so let me know if you watched all of them. I'm very grateful if you did, but don't feel bad if you didn't. I understand life's too short, right? Anyway, thank you ever so much for watching. Take it easy, and I hope that all of your performances are up to standard.